Okay, that's not floating
Whoa.
though.
Oh, that's my green light. That kind of freaked me out. Okay, that was interesting.
Yeah,
So this screw
it's
is
that one's
floating in
not
here
really. I
right
mean,
now.
it's not really floating, but
Those
it is
green
standing
lines
up.
are
It's kind of
reflecting
interesting.
off my pulse width light there. So the screw is floating in here.
Now, the technology is really kind of interesting. There's so much that comes from that Rodin coil. There's I found several papers that were written by several different authors. They're all old, musty. They're like 2010 to 2017. And there, you got to go. The problem is, you got to go behind the paywall to actually see them. Um, I found a couple that I didn't, but uh, the technologies. I mean, there's some stuff there, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we are not privy to in some of this high tech stuff. I know, the CIA, NSA, Space Force, they're all doing their own stuff, and we have no idea what they're developing. The Dow, we don't know what Dow's creating. Um, we're allowing them to have all this money to create tech,
But it's over 50,000.
but we have no idea what they're doing with the money. They don't tell us because it's national security.
Have you ever seen the precursors to uh the hadron colliders, the particle accelerator?
Yeah, yeah, that was.
It's like an electro something. I forget what they're called, but I watched a documentary. I think it was on YouTube on this, and I guess they closed the last one down a few years ago,
Yeah,
and they did an insane amount of volts or power that goes through this
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and it always kind of made me wonder.
Well,
This was the where the concept of the uh,
yeah,
what was it? What I call it? The threshold.
yeah,
Basically, the threshold is it's one of these hi-fi concepts that the laws of physics break down if you have enough energy in one location in a
yeah,
vacuum, and I think
yeah.
that's what they were trying to do.
Wow. Go ahead. You're just playing right into what I'm getting to.
I'm gonna have to grok it or something because I don't remember what these things were actually called, but yeah, I seem to remember one of them was near one of these tech university campuses out there, probably in California or something like that, and it always kind of interested me that it's something that Eric Weinstein has brought up on a lot of his podcast whenever he crawls out of his math books long enough to speak some words into a microphone.
Yeah.
Like, where you at, dude? Make some content already. Um,
Well, it's hard because you got so much going on. I understand it, but yeah,
the
I hear you.
stuff you're interested in, this is beyond me, and I wish I understood math and coding and systems like this. But you might actually get something out of his unified theory. Um,
I'm I'm
hi-
hoping.
hi-
Yeah.
I would recommend looking into his unification theory. Um, very high concept, dimensional research.
Yeah. That just kind of
I can't even
plays.
shorthand it. It's almost woo woo the level of
No, and
science that he's into.
that's what I told you the other day. I'm going woo woo on you. This stuff is really getting out there, but there actually seems to be over a period of time some actual scientific empirical evidence. We just don't have enough, I guess, tools to we don't have the right tools to measure what we're dealing with. And I'm seeing all this stuff that it somehow is related. I can't even tell you, man. I really am I'm going kind of woo woo, but it's an interesting trip. I did post this on X. You can throw it up for a second. Let's see. it was specifically, I started with Tesla, which Tesla has been, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Fuck.
Geometric Unity, that's what it was. I listened to a talk he did on this for about an hour, and my brain was hurting, and I had to stop.
Oh, dude.
I need to get back to listening to this, but this is actually where some of my ideas for the story came from, was
Yeah.
from listening to him talk about his dimensional. And I don't think he ever actually uses that term, but that's the way it read to me, at least the way my brain interpreted it, that
Well,
these are the things that we're screwing with now, or at least the concepts that we're attempting to screw with.
I love the unified field theory. That's really been a lot of what I've been concentrating on. If you could send me this link, I would really appreciate that. That looks really cool.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat here, and I'll probably wind up putting this in the description box for the episode too.
But I started with Tesla because I keep going back to him for some reason. I have an affinity with him, and he made the comment about, if you understand the numbers 3, 6, and 9, you're going to understand the key to the universe. And it kind of started me down this rabbit hole, and that's where I found really the Rodin Coil. It kind of all plays together. It was a long trip, but it's like that 6 degrees of, whatever. You find a link from one to the next, and you just keep going down the rabbit hole a little further and a little deeper. And I'm learning so much stuff that I didn't know before, but some of it is really kind of out there. But it really got me to thinking, and I made a really long post about specifically the technology that could come from this unified theory and quantum mechanics, which we all know there's a lot in quantum mechanics that we don't understand yet, but we're coming to a point where we're actually getting a lot empirical proof of stuff, I guess. I mean, I'm not a quantum physicist, but I do look at a lot of that material, and it fascinates me, understanding that. I came to a breakthrough the other day, and I think I sent it to you, but I saw where the neurons in the brain have fibers that connect them, where they, transmit their data back and forth. And those branches are potentiality, the potentiality theory, basically. And it goes into possibility theory. In the unified field, your brain actually creates an energy field. Your heart creates an energy field. And those two together will intensify whatever the energy you're giving off. I found, and that's what's so cool, I found a couple of those headsets where you can actually control your computer with a headset. You have to think about it, and it's using I think gamma waves or alpha waves, I'm not sure. Very cool tech. I would love to be able to get one, but they're pretty expensive. But that was kind of the rabbit hole I went down and started looking at that. But there's just so much out there that we don't get to see, and it's just cool sometimes to pull this up and go, hey, what are we missing here? That looks cool. We finally
let me try and play this here. I want to see how long it is, and then I'll decide if we're gonna play it or not. Any more of it?
Hello.
Okay, probably not.
Portal. I'm your host, Eric Weinstein, and I think that today's must be the most unusual episode yet of a podcast that has been marked by almost regular unusual episodes.
Brother, do something different with your hair. It's not working. I love you, man, but holy cow, what is going on? Looks like you're wearing a mop on your head.
Now, is very different than the question of whether or not the rules are effectively given. I've analogized it to a game of chess, and knowing all of the rules is equivalent to a theory of everything. Knowing how to play chess well is an entirely different question. But in the case of a theory of everything, or a unified field theory, if you will, many people also take it to be an answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? And I don't think that this is, in fact, what a theory of everything is meant to be either. Now, why is that? Well, because I believe at some level it is impossible for most of us to imagine an airtight argument, mathematically speaking, which coaxes out of an absolute void a something. However, there's a different question which I think might actually animate us, and which is the right question to ask of a potential candidate. And that is, how does one get everything from almost nothing? In the M.C. Escher drawing or lithograph, hands drawing hands or drawing hands, what we see is that the paper is presupposed. That is, if you could imagine a theory of everything, it would be like saying, if I posit the paper, can the paper will the ink into being such that the ink gives rise to the pens and the pens draw the hands, which in fact manipulate the pens to use the ink? That kind of a problem is one which is of a very different character than everything that has gone before.
Okay.
There's also, in my opinion, an explanation.
This.
Does your brain hurt yet?
Well, no, but this actually sounds like a conversation that I've had on some substances. Okay. He's going very deep in, and I love the theory that he's proposing. It's very detailed and has a lot. It has a lot of meat to it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where what does it matter? That doesn't really pertain to anything unless you can give me some proof of what you're saying. It's a theory, and we have a lot of theories. That's the problem. We don't have the tools to actually figure out the theories. So,
well, I think if anybody did, this guy's probably looked into it, but I don't. I'm not prepared this evening to go the full 2.5 hours into this guy's talk, and I don't know, legally speaking, whether or not I'd be allowed to do that. Maybe I'd get away with it on Rumble, but it would get exactly 2 views. And they're both in this room right now.
Yeah, I understand. I may look at that because it's kind of an interesting theory. I don't know where he's going with it, but there's a lot to have to break down and get a handle of. I don't know how that actually plays in a unified field.
From my understanding of his work, he has taken a lot of flack because he is trying to disprove the existence of, well, not so much disprove the existence. His theories go against the Higgs boson crowd, which has made him very unpopular in the physics community.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
He is vehemently against string theory. He thinks it's bullshit. He thinks it's what's been holding up the entirety of the physics profession, at least in the United States, if not the world. And he's also kind of got off into some other stuff. The special access projects, I think they call it, is where a lot of this hi-fi tech gets siloed off into, and we never see it for like decades. And eventually it comes to us in the form of the corporatized world.
Product. Yeah.
So we'll get the internet, and we'll get
AI.
We'll get
I'm going back to the
self-driving.
beginning. TI calculator, when that came out, was like amazing. I don't know, you weren't there, but I was. When they brought the TI out, I was like, yes, this is an instrument. This is something we can work with. And then, they started with the trash 80s. If you ever worked with a trash 80, it was really amazing for its time.
My point is a lot of this tech typically starts off in government, military applications, but even for that, like even for military applications, like we don't see singularity drives in our aircraft or our tanks or anything like that. So we're kind of like kneecapping ourselves with this tech just for the purpose of hiding it from the general public.
Well, I mean, there's such a problem with espionage. We have spies from every major country trying to pull our tech, um, and they love if they ever get their hands on any piece of it, it's all over. You know, they start working it, reverse engineering everything, and then we're screwed. We talk about China a lot, and I have to give them the fact that they've taken a lot of commercial products like the Gibson guitar. I've talked about this in the past, and they can replicate that so well at such a low price and crank them out. I mean, there's hundreds of those things, and there's good quality as an actual Gibson guitar, but they're cheap. They've stolen the tech. They know how to build a guitar that works and sounds exactly like a Gibson guitar. It feels like one. It even looks like one. They have the Gibson name on it. It's hard to get them through customs. If they get through, you're good, but a lot of them get caught at customs and they don't let them in.
Well, United States is not the only country out there researching physics and tech. It does kind of make you wonder why hasn't Japan come out with a singularity device, or China or Russia, or I don't know, the Netherlands, or like
Do you have? Go ahead.
How is it that this tech does not appear in other pockets of the world?
Well,
how would you keep something like that under wraps at a global scale?
I don't know. We see the robots that they're making in China. Some of those are really amazing, and the drone technology that they're working with. I've seen some really interesting stuff with that. But I think again, it's every country has that tech siloed off to be, I guess, a national security risk. I don't know. I mean, I know the tech's out there. I know they're working with this stuff. You can find papers all over the place. They're doing stuff. What I was going to say earlier, that CERN recently had captured dark matter apparently, and was transporting it. I saw a video. I don't know if it's real or not, but it seemed to be. They had a mass of dark matter that they were trying to transport from one location to another, and really, that's kind of interesting concept.
Wasn't it antimatter? I don't think those are the same thing.
No, what antimatter is the opposite of matter. It has to do with the polarity. I don't really know the whole mechanics of it because I'm not a physicist, but dark matter is like a different strata. If you look at the universe, if you look at let's say our solar system, we have certain things that make up the solar system: the planets, the sun, the moon, asteroids that happen to come into our galaxy or solar system. But those are only small points of matter. The rest of that solar system, and we're just using that as an example, is that's cool. It's dark matter. It's dark. There's nothing there. Apparently, there is something there. We just don't have the technology to understand what we're dealing with. And they're trying to get to the bottom of it. Now, this is kind of another realm. I'm gonna have to do a lot of digging on some of this stuff.
Welcome to the Woo Woo stream, folks. We didn't plan it, but you're here. So grab your crazy pills, roll up the tinfoil joint.
Oh, dude, don't. Because
allegedly in Minecraft.
Allegedly, Leroy. I'm headed down a rabbit hole here in just a minute that you're going to kind of flip on, but this is kind of cool. What do you got on this one?
I'm sorry, was that a question? What?
Yeah, no. What do you got on this antimatter?
Well, I'm trying to provide some visuals for this audio visual
okay.
presentation that we're cobbling together here.
Yeah, because I haven't seen this, and so old man eyes, it's kind of hard to. An anti-electron, a particle with a mass identical to the electron, but with opposite electrical charge. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Antimatter is actually a different. The particles are charged differently. It's an exact opposite apparently. If those two are supposedly brought together, then they annihilate each other. Which I just ran into this recently, and I have a real hard time grasping this because all of science that we've learned up till now states that matter energy cannot be dissipated. It only changes forms. In this instance, the energy is completely annihilated.
And we get photons and pions out of
Oh,
that,
I'm one of those. The peon.
which is light and radiation. Well, light itself is radiation. But
Oh, well, there is a whole study on light right recently that's so cool. I got to look at this equation, man. Hold on. Two possible solutions. Dirichlet's equation can have two solutions: one for electron, positive, and one for negative. That's physics and common sense that take the energy of the particle must always be a positive number, which I get that. The new particle is an anti 1932. We've done some stuff with positrons, and that's kind of cool because data's running as a positronic brain. So
the more questions that we answer, the more questions that we have.
more questions we have. Question everything, bro. Because at this point, logic fails. That's very cool. I really do enjoy that. Oh wow, that's very cool.
I thought that said foobar down there.
Yeah, well, I did too when I first saw it. I was like, really?
My brain did the old switcheroo.
Well, it's matrixing. You know, we see stuff that. Oh, did you see the solar storm that I sent you?
No.
Oh, okay. We have a major solar storm that's coming in. There are multiple solar flares coming off the sun at its equator. There's a major coronal mass. And what's interesting, the mass is the number 4455. But it's sending massive waves of radiation and solar winds towards the planet Earth. Within the next 3 days, we're going to actually experience a lot of probably radio, satellite, TV, cellular experience problems. You know, I think we'll actually get to see maybe some northern lights. You know, we had that, I guess, back in December. Maybe it was January. I think it was December.
Maybe this is why I've been so tired recently. We're all getting zapped.
Well, I mean, then that kind of plays into what I want to talk about in this other section. You know, we've had this change in the Schumann resonance in the last 6 months. It is outrageous the levels that this thing is going to, and we don't understand how that affects us because we are a living entity in this ecosphere. We are part of that Schumann resonance. We feel that, and yeah, I mean, it's very possible. We don't know what the effects are going to be from this solar flares that are coming in, but you know.
The Large Hadron Collider smashing the Schumann resonance, brother. I'm telling you.
There's a lot of stuff going on, man. Just a lot of stuff. Now, I was checking this out, and you know, ultra low frequencies, or ELFs, the electromagnetic signals. The fundamental is 7.83 hertz, with harmonics at 14, 21, 27, 34 approximately. Those are human brain waves. The alpha waves are 8 to 13 hertz, peaking around 10 hertz. They overlap with fundamental alpha waves with a bridge between conscious and the subconscious mind, which is really kind of interesting. So as we're dealing with a change in the Earth's resonance, it's affecting our mind. We're actually, I guess, opening up with the subconscious. It's kind of interesting. But it talks about being at the border of theta and lower alpha waves. There are higher harmonics that overlap with other brain rhythms. Exposures to the 8.3 hertz fields can increase alpha wave amplitude and coherence, promoting relaxation. Well, we're not getting any relaxation, but and then they start going into the binaural beats, which if you look at that tech, and that actually came out of the CIA studies back in the 60s, that whole section is very cool. But audio tracks at 18-13 hertz can encourage alpha states effective for many people. It's very trippy because people take like out of body experiences on those binaural beats. Very, very interesting technology. But like I said, this was, if you look, this is notes to feed yourself. This is stuff that I really was, I pulling it together and trying to get a coherence of this tech that I was looking at. And but I come down here into the context of sacred geometry, and it talks about the vortex math, which is basically what Tesla was talking about, 3, 6, and 9. You have the key to the universe. Well, you come down here and you start looking at this, and it says the central tenet linking vortex math, sacred geometry is the exclusion of the numbers 3, 6, and 9 from the doubling circuit. It's this framework. Okay, 3 and 6 are viewed as the oscillating poles or the governors of the system, representing the binary form of the energy, magnetic and electric, that shapes the torus, or that Rodin sphere that we were looking at earlier. 9 is positioned at the apex or the axis of the torus, representing the void, unity, or the higher dimensional vector that controls the entire system without being part of the physical low. That's just getting really trippy. If you really start thinking about what they're saying, the numbers form an equilateral triangle that sits outside a hexagonal pattern created by the other 6 digits, symbolizing a higher order of spiritual or energetic reality that governs the mental plane. And they actually started doing stuff at Hewlett Packard. It very interesting. They create 62.5% greater magnetic output than the present day standard wound electrical coils. That made me think about a friend of mine who's her dad actually was a electrician, an electrician engineer, and he was always doing windings of different coils and stuff, and it fascinated me. You know, there's so much that I don't understand about electric fields and magnetic fields. We learn a little bit of stuff in science in school, but it's the stuff they want us to know. It's not stuff that we can do anything with. You know, I know magnets work. I know there's a positive and negative. I understand atoms and electrons, but I never knew about quarks. We never got into quarks. I guess they didn't know then. I don't know. But yeah, Tesla, and this picture actually, Anna Paulina Luna posted this recently when they were talking about the UFO technology being released, and I thought that was kind of interesting that she actually posted that picture. But this is talking about the different brain waves, the gamma waves, the beta, alpha, theta, and delta waves, and the things that really are associated with that. If we can hit gamma waves, we get really peak experience and insight, which we really all need to have some insight. Alpha waves really are for meditation and very, very calming. If you get into an alpha wave state, it's very good for rejuvenating you, apparently. I don't know. The delta waves really are more of deep sleep or transcendental meditation, which I kind of looked at a little bit in my younger days. I was very fascinated by transcendental meditation, but there's so much out there. It's just hard to get through all of it. But this really just kind of gives you a breakdown of the hertz and what the waveforms look like. It's very interesting. But understand that everything, everything we deal with is in some kind of wave form. And the wave theory is very interesting. And the unified field theory is kind of the same thing. So,
Yeah, I do think you're going to want to look into Eric Weinstein's work on that. It's some fascinating stuff. And obviously, he's got other work besides that, but I know that was his kind of magnum opus, if you will. Probably right up your alley. I know
Yeah.
he's talked about the same type of stuff that we're talking about this evening at great length. And I used to listen to his podcast on a regular basis because of that.
This is the article that I haven't published yet. And it kind of goes into some woo-woo stuff.
Well,
But
how about that, man? You were right on the same page.
yeah. I stole the graphic and I flipped it on its head. This actually, to me, represents the.
Well, don't say that on a stream.
Well, it's if you know what it is, it makes sense to kind of where we're at. But this is what, to me, the Schumann resonance. This is kind of what's going on with the Schumann resonance and the Dow. Okay, this is what really interesting me because this is the Dow Jones Industrial Register, and sorry. But unified field theory, quantum mechanics, dark matter, and insider trading. What? So I'm concerned about our future. There might still be a bit of hope on the horizon, but we have to see how things turn out. And then I threw in the graphic, which I thought that's really kind of cool. That is the torus and the field that it creates, and kind of a little bit of history about it. This is interesting because it talks about when Tesla died in 1943, the OAP, or the Office of Alien Property, came and seized all of his papers and possessions because they didn't want it getting into enemy hands. The FBI went through all this stuff and basically they turned it over to Dr. John G. Trump, which very interesting name, right? He went through and said basically there's no new sound workable principles or methods for realizing any results. Tesla claimed particularly regarding a death ray, and that's what they were kind of looking for. They didn't find anything to actually prove that. So really, he just said, okay, not a big deal. They did a 3D investigation. Apparently, they turned it over. They did have a device, what was supposed to be a particle beam weapon, the Teleforce. Determined the plans lacked sufficient information to actually build a functional weapon, noting that any workable configuration described would be of limited power. And a lot of stuff that Tesla was working with low energy. He did have a lot of step up with like the Warden Tower. There were transformers in there that would step up the power to resonate to a certain level, to a certain frequency, and it had to be tuned just right. And that goes into a whole lot of weird stuff. When you're talking about everything is really made up of waves. Everything, our five senses are based on waves. It doesn't sound like that, but when you break it down to an atomic level, everything really is. And so, anyway, they went through and they basically said, okay, not a big deal. But John Trump was Donald J. Trump's uncle, which I find very fascinating. Not that I believe any different than the narrative they've given us since 1943 or 1963, 1968, 2001. They give us narratives all the time, and we just have to swallow them. But apparently there were 60 of the 80 recorded trunks remain unaccounted for. 20 trunks of information just disappeared, and they have no clue where it went. So really the main race today is finding mystery energy behind the creation of the universe. Scientists know this energy exists, but we can't see it. They refer to it as dark matter or dark energy because it's still unaccounted for. CERN's been studying dark matter for a while. And I tell you, they said they had dark matter contained, and they were trying to transport it. So I think it's really cool. and I heard this somewhere. In mathematics is the language of God, but until now, nobody's actually speaking God's language. If you know the magnificence of 3, 9, 6, and 9, then you have the key to the universe, Tesla. Now, I understand why growing up they taught us new math. They didn't want us to understand the old math. This particular math describes a dynamic vibrating geometry where numbers dictate the behavior of energy. 3, the triad. Okay, you have to really kind of pull this into philosophy, religion, all the things that our civilization is kind of based upon. But the triad is the positive, and 6, which is evil or double the triad, is a negative power. Those are those oscillating poles or the governors of the system, which are the binary flow of energy, magnetic and electric, that shapes the torus. Now, 9 is that position really in the axis of the center.
Lucifer is known as the judgmental one throughout text. He is the one. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just throwing this out there to give you something to look at, but
I mean, you're kind of mixing the spiritual with some
with some
science in here. I understand the inclination.
I mean, you gotta look at it and go, is there really a correlation? Have we been deceived in some way, or have they put it?
We're operating on hunches, and even your terminology here, I would take issue with numbers being God's language.
Oh yeah,
God's language is God's language. I would sooner believe that mathematics, at least in the form that we're using it right now, is actually witchcraft of some type or another. And that this is yet another spell casting system passed down to us by the Nephilim that descended to Mount Hermon thousands of years ago. And I think that's where a lot of this hidden tech comes from, too. The conversation we had earlier on the phone.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of this technology that we're not allowed to have access to because we weren't part of the ritual to gain it in the first place. So that's why we can't use it.
Well, and I have no issue with that. That's something, that's more that I have on my plate when I have to start looking at this stuff and really kind of diving in and doing a deep dive and digging. It takes a lot of time. You have to kind of put things together. And I took a long walk with the dog earlier, and I was thinking about a lot of the stuff and going through it. And, it's very fascinating. It's very captivating. But we have nothing to prove anything. We don't have the tools to prove this stuff. It's all theory. We talk about physics. A lot of this stuff is physics theory.
Well, those guys you were showing videos before with the Rodin coils. I mean, they're out there trying it, and I've heard of other people. Like I said, the John Moore callers he had 1 or 2 guys that would call in that said they were powering their house with one of these things.
Well, and there's another one, and I don't know if I could find it, right now, but they're using a TV antenna, an old TV antenna, and they're actually creating energy out of the air. They're powering a little LED light, basically, and they have to hit the right frequency, and it zaps it. You get a burst of light. And it's energy coming from the antenna. It's free energy that's in the atmosphere. It's all around us. We just don't know how to get it. We don't understand the technology yet. We're getting there. We're building it. But I think it's an evolving thing. We didn't have a lot of stuff to begin with. We've just kind of built on everything from step to step. We learn a little bit, and then we go a little bit further, and we go a little bit further. We just haven't evolved enough yet, I don't think. But what's really bizarre is there's scientific proof, or they say, I mean, I've never seen it, but there's tech thousands of years old that we have no understanding of. Where did it come from? Because the people that were there at the time shouldn't have had that kind of technology. For example, the pyramids. How did they create the pyramid? They they moved those stones somehow, uh, massive stones a long distance, and stacked them up and built the pyramids. And we have no idea how that happened, but and we don't even understand what's involved with why did they build a pyramid the way they did. The chambers are set up so they align with the solar system, and at certain times, certain chambers light up, and it's very bizarre, man. This, oh, that, yeah. Let me pull that one up because that's really interesting. Go ahead and
So this is actually a concept from the Thomas Townsend Brown. I actually have the book that he is mentioned in by La Violette. I can't remember the guy's first name, but it was called The Secret of Antigravitic Propulsion.
yeah,
And this is one of the concepts they explored, petrovoltaics. So granite and volcanic rocks spontaneously rectify and store radiation as electrical potential.
yeah,
And he believed that what these rocks were actually doing is they were collecting cosmic radiation, either from the sun or, somewhere else in the galaxy. So they were acting not like a solar panel, but like a radiation panel.
right.
Very small amounts of electricity. I forget what he said. It was like less than a volt, like 0.0001 volts or something like that.
Want to know about and kind of get a feel for. There's so much we don't understand, and they maybe hide stuff in plain sight. I don't know. But that you're talking about the placeholder, that is very true. They just give us something to placate us, basically, not to tell us the real story. And it's like the UFO, files that we got dropped. We got how many different files? 70 something files, 74 files.
I didn't look at any of them.
I did, and I'm gonna be very honest. The stuff was not, to me, very empirical. That's not evidence of anything. It's a lot of um, wobbly dots on a screen. I mean, you can't tell me that's anything. I have no. There's nothing you could prove that's a UFO.
And you can't tell me that's all they've got at this point either. And I figured if there was anything actually interesting, one of the many sources of information that I listen to or read on
One
a
of the
daily
leakers?
basis would have said something about it, and they didn't, which is why I didn't waste my fucking time on it, because everything this administration has done to
It's a
try
distraction.
it has been a distraction. It has failed to live up to the promises. So the bigger they talk, the less I believe. And that's unfortunately where I'm at and where I'm going to continue to be until proven otherwise.
Well, they came out with the big ad for Disclosure Day, which was,
Big fucking whoop.
it was the movie that they were pushing, and they had the ad. And I actually took the ad and changed it. I posted it on X for Distraction Day.
I like it. I like it.
So it really, I mean, that literally was what it was. It really had nothing to do with the 8 UFO files. It just was something to take our mind off what they were actually doing at the time.
So when the Nephilim came down, they took wives amongst them, however the wordage goes, you know what that means.
Yeah.
Their children, by the way, in the process
Their
of
offspring.
childbearing, the woman died for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah.
But I think this whole concept of giants among, it doesn't necessarily mean what we think of as giants.
Yeah.
When we think of giants as like, super tall and whatever, and there's certainly accounts of that in the Bible. But these were not creatures of flesh. They were created of spirit. They're an entirely different species from us. So in order to procreate with our women in the first place, they had to take on the form of humans, which means they had the power to do that in the first place. So what else could they do? And that information was handed down to their offspring and their acolytes. And today we know it as more generally witchcraft or
The occult.
black magic or the occult.
Yeah.
So, if you can bend your physical form to look or feel like anything else, or even to procreate with a different species you were never meant to, then I'd imagine coming up with blueprints for technology or even just outright spinning it into existence is not outside the realm of possibility either. This is why I say if you're going to be looking into the Sumerian tablets anymore, you're going to want to look into the Book of Enoch and the angels, the fallen angels, when they came down to Mount Hermon all those years ago, and what proceeded thereafter. It was so bad, it was so abhorrent to God that he sent the flood to eliminate them off the face of the earth. But witchcraft and all this other stuff, it remained afterwards. And because the fallen angels and even the Nephilim were creatures of spirit, they weren't actually destroyed.
Right. They went into hiding.
Well, that's the other thing. Did they all die? I don't remember if that's what the Bible said, if that was in red letters or not. And, the Bible is probably one of the most adulterated book on the face of the planet. So have things been altered? I don't know. I mean, we didn't get the Dead Sea Scrolls until, I don't know, what was it, 80 years ago or something like that when we actually got those. And then I don't know, whoever the arbiters are of what is and is not canonical biblical lore decided that it wouldn't be included, and it was discounted as woo-woo stuff.
Originally Constantine created the religion basically at Theopolis, and took a lot of the Christian books at the time and kind of went through. But not everything that was there they accepted. It was a lot of stuff that they rejected, and it just kind of continued to get handed down and changed as it went through. Like, for example, you were talking earlier today. I can't. My mind kind of. Oh, the Scofield Bible. That's a totally different set of words. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That you're taking something and you're changing it to fit your narrative, and it doesn't work, man.
Yeah, listening to somebody of an entirely different faith try to preach to me, and I'm not a good Christian by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't ever remember learning about a certain group of people being chosen as favorite over everybody else. I could be wrong.
Well,
that does not feel like the God of the Bible that I learned about growing up.
Yeah, no, it's
no. I understand there are people that have been selected, for certain tasks, but that's not the same thing.
If you actually look at the New Testament, Jesus basically said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing because I'm not really a Bible scholar, but covenant. You like that one?
Yeah. Start with these. The rest are on the back shelf.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got another truck coming at 5.
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. But I mean, there's so much to actually go through and kind of unpack, and you just everything you look at is a new wormhole, a new rabbit hole, and you just go, "Wow, how did I get even here?"
Chris Hinckley said it best. Everything is long form content, and that's part of the reason why they engineered it so we've got 5-second attention spans. Because when you need higher concepts explained to you, it helps when the controllers can make it so you can't hold a conversation for longer, or thought for longer than 9 seconds.
I have a lot of weird stuff on my timeline. I repost a lot of stuff.
All right, man. I gotta take a break here real
Okay.
quick. Jeez. You know, it seems like things are always teleporting from one of my pockets into the other pocket or another pocket.
Yeah. I have elves or fairies in my house that move things randomly. I know I put it right there, but now it's over there.
Well,
How
in
does
your
that
case, it's probably your animals.
well, this is I know there's a lot involved. I wanted to talk about that a little bit too, but you know, I have such an affinity for animals, and every one of these have their own personality. It's like another person, and I have conversations with them, and we understand each other. And there's such a love. They love me. I love them, and there's such a wonderful feeling. You don't get that from people, and like my dog. It's unconditional love. Doesn't matter what I do to her, she still loves me the same. And she just plays and laughs and has a good time. And we get so bogged down in looking at unified theory and all this other stuff. So
Well, we are thinking creatures, man. We'd still be huddled in caves right now, nary a spark in sight, if that weren't the case. At least until the monolith showed up and taught us how to make clubs.
I don't want to belong to any club. Thank you. If they would, heck, if they want me, I don't want to be in it. So let me find this particular one because I really want to kind of pull this in.
Did you want me to share this thing you're looking at here?
Yeah, let me make sure I turn this over.
Why is it every podcaster seems to own guitars now? What the hell's going on?
I don't know. This guy's actually pretty cool. He is.
I
He's
need to
not
get
really.
guitars, apparently.
No,
Several of them.
Well,
And
I mean, I can loan you a few.
And I'll
I'm not
just put
using
them
them
on.
right now.
I'll just put them on display behind. Well,
I
I'm
used to
not
have
gonna
that.
show me, but
I used to have that, but yeah, I don't. Not anymore. They're all in storage right now. So. This
man,
guy's
look at that
actually-
setup. Jeez.
I know. Isn't that cool? He apparently is a musician. I mean, you can tell by looking. He has some really nice monitors there right behind his head, and then the screen is just phenomenal. But he's a project manager, and I don't know exactly what his
Well,
his
that looks
field
like
is.
an armored, like a vault door or something behind him. Weird.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it may be actually if you look at the panels behind the left of his head there, the left
He's
of
in a
that
sound
door,
booth.
those are sound panels. Yeah, he's got his own studio. So I mean, I don't know exactly what his gig is, but um, that's a very high tech studio that he's in. I would love to have that, but God, I can't imagine how much money goes into that. This guy is actually very interesting, and I bring this up because this is something that has fascinated me a lot lately. Let me just play just a little bit of this.
Dude, I know this sounds crazy, and I promise I am just a regular dude. I called it an interface when I was describing it. He was like instantly like, "Oh, that's the console. That's the console. You're experiencing the console." It looks like a screen like folds up and then out. There's like 4 or 5 other people. They get presented with the console every single time now too. It's like clockwork.
What do you think it means beyond just like what you think it is? What do you think it means on a broader sense?
Like this is a learning experience. It's like it's trying to teach or show us something. Is this the control board for this game, or the reality as we're experiencing it right now? Is it some type of technology? 2 years ago, I would have been one of those people that are like, this is crazy, this guy is hallucinating, this is your brain on drugs. I'm having all the thoughts of like, oh my God, like I'm out. What if I can't get back? What if I can't get back to my body? I saw Duke and Zoe, like, oh my God.
Dude, that's it. That's impressive. Like for
So
Okay.
what he's actually explaining is DMT, and I think we've kind of touched on that briefly previously, but he's actually done small doses of DMT over 200 times, which is I find kind of amazing. And I subscribe to what his theory is. What he said was he doesn't believe in people that just do it one time or two times and say I'm good, because there's so much to it. You get more every time you go in, and you don't come back with very much. You're not able to impart. You've got it. There's just no way to explain what you've gone through. I mean, we can approximate it, but what is so fascinating, over 4,000 years, we all have the same experiences, the
They
same.
saw the monolith,
Well, they see
the
something.
Akashic library. They connected to the. They swiped the library card at the Akashic library.
Let's see where he's talking about. Yeah, this is kind of.
I think Rogan talked about this as well, but I don't know if he mentioned.
So, okay, so you went from nothing to something. I'll tell you that. You went off the deep end there, which is that's very brave of you, number one. But you said there's a repeatable experience, which is interesting.
Yeah. So all right. So this is the I don't know if you've heard of this Danny Goller guy, or this it's this
The
guy,
laser guy?
the laser guy, right? He found out that if you at a certain dosage level of DMT, if you shine a laser on a wall, you kind of see things. You see this very specific thing, and 7 or 8 out of 10 people who do it, which I think there's in the thousands of people that have done it now. But everybody has this exact same experience. They see the exact same thing, which is for psychedelics. That's really, that's something.
And I got a grasp of that. I have not experienced DMT. I'm very interested in the chemical technology of it. Our brain actually creates DMT.
Imagine your brain is a cable box, right?
Yeah.
By taking these substances that they're talking about right now, what it's doing is it's tuning your brain, or turning the dial on your brain, so you're seeing and feeling and experiencing different frequencies. You get where I'm going?
Yeah.
So this is actually, man, a lot of this shit ties together in ways that just they keeps happening over and over and over again. Sean Kennedy.
There are no coincidences, there are only synchronicities. So
Sean Kennedy in Tales from the After Now talked about this during his the episode where he became a dread man, and then there was a couple episodes afterward, but the one that sticks out is at Kubi. He really kind of goes into this, and I think he's talked about doing ayahuasca or something like that in the past.
Yes. Amazing. Well, and that's basically the same technology or the same chemical compound. Ayahuasca is actually based on a plant in South America. It's, I think, like a cactus. But there's a psychedelic chemical that ayahuasca, and you have to actually combine it with another chemical. They mix this substance up for you to actually drink it. DMT is synthesized in the lab. It's more of a straight kind of chemical. What's really amazing though is they've done some actual experiments with DMT now, because a lot of people have been interested in it. Now you can go. There's places in the United States you can actually you can do ayahuasca. You have to have a guide basically when you take a trip. And this goes back to the Indians of Arizona using peyote. Peyote has a very it's a hallucinogenic. I've done some hallucinogenics in my time, and I have to tell you, it's very mind expanding. There's some things that you can't explain. Now I understand your brain on drugs. I get it. The commercial with the egg. This is your brain on drugs. You're frying your brain. Yeah. But when you're actually looking at something along this line, we have no clue how this actually works. these guys are
Right. But what I was getting at with the frequency thing, and specifically with what he was talking about with people shining a laser and seeing
Yeah.
basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Is that would account for why they're seeing the same thing, and perhaps why some people just see a laser beam on the wall.
Well, and that's what I was going to say.
They don't have the receptors for, like, some women. I think it's like was it 8 and 10 women have an extra photoreceptor.
Right.
So our brains are different because our biology is different. Even at the family level, you're not going to have the same DNA. And if you cloned yourself, your clone would not have the same DNA because of environmental factors, and stuff like that. But yeah, Akubi, which I don't know, I might pull that up. Sean Kennedy's Tales from the After Now. I think it's like episode 5 or something, and it's mid-season.
Yeah.
After he becomes the Dread Man, and one of the things he's describing is that the Dread Men all purport to see the same
anatomical.
Sorry.
Dreadmen have a neural spike. It's a cybernetic implant in their brain that allows their brain to catch and receive and decrypt using their own brain radio signals, electromagnetic signals,
Right.
anything like that. And the way the brain interprets that is it's different for every frequency, signal, whatever.
Yes.
So they would see, I don't know, a rabbit or a bird or a scorpion or something like that, or maybe some freakish amalgamation, or maybe like a rainbow, or whatever the case is. For whatever reason, even though it's different brain receiving the same signal, they're seeing the same thing. Now, you would think that it would be different because it's a different brain with different experiences attached to that person.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. When you're doing like peyote, for example, or mushroom, for example, and that's a very good example. A lot of people do microdoses of mushrooms. The hallucinogenic that you're getting from that, you are experiencing a setting that your mind is actually creating because you're on the drug. It's misfiring. It's actually misfiring your brain. It's scrambling your brain signals. Okay, but DMT is not doing that. It's actually tuning you into the same thing, the same experiences, and it's documented over 4,000 years. They've been doing this for 4,000 years, and they've all said the same kind of experiences, and that is very bizarre in hallucinogenics. We don't understand why it does that. We've not yet grasped how this works. They're doing a lot of technology research and study on it right now, but I don't know that we're going to get a lot out of it. Let me play this one real quick.
It should be more okay for a lot of people to admit that we're in our infancy of understanding reality to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I think a lot about this all the time. It's like, is any of this real? Are you here? Is this fucking room here? Is this real? Is any of this real?
Well, that goes back to the first principle of Hermeticism. The all is mind, mental. And I think that's pretty damn true of like a lot of the things that we see on psychedelics, a lot of the big revelations that people have.
This is the Brotherhood guy, isn't it?
No. This is Chase Hughes. Chase Hughes is actually, was a military behavioral specialist. He's a psychologist. He has a psychology degree. He has I think a philosophical degree. I'm not sure. But he actually does a lot of training for CIA agents and FBI.
Before you said it, I could feel the ooze coming off from him through the screen.
He's kind of a glowy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really kind of strange because he did all this stuff when he was in the military, and he was.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, he was very much involved with behavioral studies and psyops. He does a lot now. There's a lot of videos that he has on psyops, and I'll pull some of those later. But I really think you need to kind of hone in on Chase Hughes because he's a really interesting man. What I find really cool is that he has a interesting, and I actually was kind of following when this happened, but he was diagnosed with a very rare brain disease, and basically he was losing his cognitive ability, and he went and did DMT, and his wife blessed the DMT the night before. And she asked for only two things when they did the blessing, was that that would heal his brain and it would heal his heart, because he also had a heart problem. And I asked him, how are you now? And he's like, fine. It's amazing. He has done multiple trips on DMT, but this particular incident that he describes, he was on a 4-hour trip in an intravenous DMT exposure. And that is like, that's like the highest level. They have what is basically an anesthetist machine that they put the drug into, and they can like turn it up to a certain level or turn it down. They can kind of fine tune it to a certain degree. And it's what he said was interesting was, there is, when you go through DMT, everybody says the same experience. It's like when that first initial feeling, when the drug is like coming on, you go to what is known as the waiting room. Okay, everybody goes to the waiting room, and it's just like a different space that there are other beings there. They're different completely of anything that we can comprehend.
Hey, Bob, they got any more magazines here? I've been here forever, and this lady's not giving me the time of day.
Yeah, the waiting room. Yeah.
Dude,
then you go
get the
out
reference?
of the waiting room. Yeah.
Some Beetlejuice here for.
Yeah. You got any more magazines? Yeah. No. But what he said was they basically cranked him up. He was like in the waiting room a couple of seconds, and he went directly into the experience. And then he had to go like to the bathroom one time, and so they cranked it down so he could do that. And he said, "Don't try that. Don't try to go to the bathroom on DMT."
Oh my gosh!
But and I can kind of attest to.
So I guess the simulators upgraded the RAM on the other side of this.
Yeah. Well,
the load screen went much quicker for him.
It's so bizarre when he starts talking about some of this technology. Let me see.
Stop pretending like it's not a game, like it's just a game. And if just look at the Bible. The number one most repeating phrase in the Bible is "Do not fear," 365 times.
I didn't know that either.
Do not fear or be not afraid, like kind of variations on that theme. 365 times, most common phrase in the Bible.
What was quantum tunneling? We didn't cover that.
I don't know a lot about it, but I know that quantum tunneling proved or went back to the second principle of hermeticism, which was as above, so below. But quantum tunneling is basically like creating some little wormhole.
Okay.
Somebody else would answer this
like
way
manipulation of space and space time or something.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to dig into that one.
You need to get Eric Weinstein on the panel.
Do it.
They need to get Eric Weinstein on the panel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these guys travel in the same circles.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they do. I think it would be a really interesting conversation, especially with Chase, because he has a lot of understanding of a different understanding, I guess, from a psychological point of view. He actually has like a partly medical degree, And because of his brain condition, he's done a lot of study. He actually went through with a lot of different kind of drugs. He got me interested in methylene blue back before it became popular on Alex Jones. And to be honest, I have 3 bottles right now of Alex Jones methylene blue. Bought some liquid off Amazon, and it's a very interesting compound, and it does do some enhancement to your brain. It changes the chemical makeup of your brain, and it's kind of interesting. But I don't get what everybody else gets, and that's the thing. We're all different. Everybody's physiological makeup is different. Our brain chemistry is completely different. That's what fascinates me with psychology today. We give people drugs without any kind of medical tests. You go in, you talk to someone, you tell them your symptoms, and they go, "Oh, I'm going to put you on Prozac. Oh, and you got to have this mood stabilizer as well. And by the way, you're going to have tardive dyskinesia or whatever that is, TD, which your muscles are going to do really weird shit. So we're going to have to give you another drug for that. Okay. And while you're on that, you're probably going to have some kind of pill to actually help you sleep. And because you're taking sleeping pills, you're going to have something to actually help you stay awake during the day." They just put you on all these drugs, and they have done no medical tests whatsoever. It's all based on a science, a pseudoscience, where they're just listening to symptoms and they're deciding what you need to have. And they're practicing medicine. They're not actually doing medicine. They're practicing. Oh, it's not working for you? Well, let's try this drug. Let's put you on that. Let's up your dosage. Let's change this. They never do any tests to see what this is affecting you physically or mentally. It's all a sham. Sorry.
With any other medical treatment, there is usually testing that precedes the application of medicine or a surgery or any other thing that could alter your body's physical chemistry or makeup.
Or mental. And that's what we're dealing with. We have such a mental health crisis in this country and worldwide.
Well, medication alters the physical. The mental is the physical. Well, the two are intrinsically linked, and I think that's something that gets lost upon most people. Also, your gut has neurons in it.
There's a lot. Has the most neurons, and that's why we talk about the gut feeling. When you have a gut feeling, it's because you're getting that feeling from all the sensors in your gut.
That's your primal danger sense area. Yeah, fight or flight. Feel it in my gut. I've got a hunch.
What really kind of bothers me is the reptilian brain. They always talk about the reptilian brain, and that's the almost like the buried part of us that we don't really understand.
What I'm saying is, I would think that with all of the technology we got, CT scans and what was the other one? MRI, sonar,
recently.
all the different stuff that we have available to us, and probably more than
we don't do that for mental health.
We don't do that for before prescribing that, or even after prescribing it to do a post checkup and see, okay, how are you progressing, and are you getting necessarily?
I have to say, they do blood tests periodically to see the levels of the drug in your blood.
But that's just to make sure you're not selling the meds and you're actually taking it.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that for a fact because my doctors tell me that. You're doing this test because you want to make sure you're not selling them on the street. Why would I sell them on the street? I fucking need them.
Wait, I can do.
I can sell them on the street.
Cut this part out.
No, I just understand that this is actually probably one of the most severe crises that this country has to deal with. We talk about all these people just going off the deep end. 9 times out of 10, they're on some kind of SSRI. Am I not right?
I hate to bring it back to this, but it really all does come back to the money. And if you're going to gaslight an entire populace of people, that suddenly their labor is worth, well, not suddenly, but over time, I think there's really an evolutionary thing, like that gut feeling you were just talking about, where people know at a base primal level that they're being robbed, that their future is being destroyed, that their progeny is being hobbled.
Raped.
You can't say that. Can't say that word, man.
Sorry. Sorry.
Not on YouTube.
Sorry. I just understand. People know. We know there's a problem. I get it, but I don't see anybody working on this. Nobody. We've got this guy that really supposed to be working on pharmaceutical stuff. Yeah, okay, we're getting drugs down. You can get your drugs cheaper. You can go to Trump RX. By the way, that's kind of a big hole for big tech to follow you around.
My point is that's the reason for all the pharmification of our brains, is because
money.
Without the soma to wrangle the population, you would have a very unruly mass, and we'd probably have had our 1776
changing of the guard. Changing of the guard, yeah. I don't know, man. I have a real problem with doctors, and I don't know this person's actual credentials. I don't know what kind of studies they've done. Could this, and I really go back to, would you like to have a surgeon that's a C student in school? I mean, how does that make you feel? He passed, but he just barely passed. How does that make you feel? Makes me really worried, and I have to admit, laying on the surgery table, I'm awake, but I'm under anesthesia. I'm kind of groggy, but I'm awake enough to understand what's going on, and I'm telling him what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing, and my surgeon immediately just goes, "Oh fuck." That's not something you want to hear on the operating table, that really kind of worries you. And then he freaks out, and that makes me a lot more intensely scared. Basically, the procedure that they were doing was not going like they expected, and they had to make some modifications during the surgery. But that, and I understand things happen, but this is practicing medicine. When you're dealing with human life, you can't just make guesses. I understand you're making an educated guess, but my God, this is a human life. I know instances where they've made mistakes on the operating table and people have died because of it. And I can't grasp that. I don't understand why do we allow this system to work that way?
Still one of the leading causes of death in America. Still.
Well, pharmaceutical industry is such a beast. They go to the doctors and they give them these freebies to give out to their patients to get them hooked on it. And then you got to pay these exorbitant prices, and you got to have the insurance to actually pay for it. And the insurance only will pay a certain amount. You got to pay out of pocket. Yeah. And they just keep, because you're taking this, you're going to have this side effect. So we have to give you another drug for that. And because of that, there's another side effect that we have to give something else for. Like, what are you doing? I was on, one time, I was actually on 14 medications at one time. I guarantee you, 14. Now I'm really on about 7. That's only about half.
You know what they need to do? They need to strip the IP from these pharmaceutical companies on a sunset timer, like they do with other intellectual property.
Well, they do actually.
They do.
Yes, they do. Yes, there is a particular span of time, and I don't know exactly when that is, but that goes into where we get generic drugs. Okay, when you go and you try to get a drug and it's really expensive, and they say, "Oh, we can give you generic." Well, that's because they have found that that span of time has been up on the actual IP of that drug, and they've made that available to other manufacturers so they can now make something similar, but not the
Okay.
exact drug. So yeah, they do
All
have
right.
that.
Well, I'm dumb. Okay, I earned one of
No.
these.
I'm sorry, dude. I mean, I'm the drug dude. Okay. I'm very, I understand this stuff a little better than. Go ahead. You there?
Don't be Bogarden. I gotta take a quick break here.
Okay.
All right, we are back. Sorry, my chair is fighting me.
No, you're good. You're good. You might cut this out. But.
Man, that's some heavy shit, man.
No. No.
That's where our country is gone, man.
Can't make good movies anymore, man.
What he's talking about, and he kind of goes into a little more detail, but basically and I don't know how this guy figured this out, but they have to use a DeWalt laser. DeWalt, like you go to the hardware store and get a laser, and they put this laser on the wall, and they're able to look inside the laser, and everybody sees like code on the wall, and it's not all symbols that we recognize. There are other symbols that are very foreign, and they all describe different things, and everybody's tried to kind of write them down and kind of simulate what they've seen inside this laser. What is so bizarre, it's like the code is on the surface, and you can kind of move your head and you can see like the code moves behind the laser. So weird.
Study, but he talks about it. Federico Fagin talks about this, and Rupert Sheldrake, that consciousness is something that comes from outside of our head, and our brain acts like a filter for consciousness. So that when we do things like psychedelic, is really muting and turning down that filter on consciousness.
They talk about this?
Oh yeah, big time.
Wow.
I want you to get them on just so I can personally watch the episode.
I'll do everything I can to get them on. That sounds fascinating. On another subject, on the break, we were talking about some laser, and I've heard this too.
Yeah.
I'll just let you do it. But basically, it was lasers with ones and zeros visibly inside of the laser.
So let me just set this up. So if you bought like a DeWalt laser level at Home Depot, and it paints that line across the wall, and then you put something in front of the laser to kind of diffuse it. So you take it from being a really thin laser line and then spread that sucker out so it's like 6 inches wide, big fat line of laser on the wall. And then you get somebody that's on DMT or psychedelics, almost any psychedelic, I think. When you look at that, you can see, number one, you can see through the wall.
You can see through the wall.
You can see through the wall.
Where the laser is, or just through the wall?
Right where the laser is, you can see through the wall. You can even put it on your arm, and the code changes on your arm. If your arm gets in front of where the wall is, the code is completely different.
Are you what?
I didn't believe this. So this was viral on TikTok. Someone stole the TikTok video and reposted it on their X account. I saw this guy. His name is Danny Goller. And he's one of my good friends if you want to have him on.
I'm listening.
I'll put you guys in touch. So I see this video, and I'm watching the behavior of the people observing everything to see if they're lying. Because I'm a behavioral expert. I'm looking for deception and lies and all this stuff all the time. They were all truthful. So I called my assistant. I said, get this guy, wherever he is, fly him to my house, or fly him where we can meet up somewhere. I want to try this out. So we flew to a place. We wound up flying to a place where DMT is not illegal. And shine this thing on the wall. And I've never done DMT before until this day. And oh my God, that's a whole nother 3-hour podcast. But while you are in the DMT state, you get close to the wall and you can see code that looks kind of like alien writing, like you'd see, and then some that look like kanji, Japanese characters. But the thing is, when you're hallucinating something, like sometimes hallucinations change and warp and modify a little bit. This is permanent, solid. So and if you move your head, the code stays in the same place. And if you move the laser on the wall, like you take the laser level and scoot it up, different code reveals itself as the laser is moving.
Wow.
And then you get 2 or 3 people lined up and they all see the same thing.
Shut it down. Shut it down. They understand too much.
Well,
Send the meteor.
We're getting close to understanding, a little bit of what we're dealing with as far as reality is I don't know. It goes into simulation theory, and I have a whole lot of information on that, but I really get this understanding that if you're looking at the code, it's what the actual makeup of the physical matter is. It's like an equation, okay? And as you move the laser, he said you moved the laser, the code would change. It's because it's like it has to do with the location, I guess, maybe, because you're actually moving it up. It changes where the physics are, or the
you're looking at the code base. It's like a translator, basically.
It's a game. It's a simulated game. When you look at the code, when you're playing Call of Duty and you're looking at a wall, there's a code that makes that wall.
Yes.
Right. That's what. But it's not a real thing.
So you have a computer. You have a computer, all right, Mr. Gray Hat.
Yeah.
You have a computer that you need to get into, but you don't have the password.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you do?
Well, I mean, depending on what operating system, I have tools that I can get in with. I can run multiple attacks on a password. For me, basically, I don't want to brute force a password because that takes too long. I mean, you can do that. I would rather try to do some kind of clickbait, get them to reveal their password to me through social engineering, because that's really the weakest link in a computer system is a human interaction, and I'm dealing with that right now.
In this case, it's either the master coder of the universe or God.
Yeah.
Depending on how far you want to stretch this analogy. So let's assume social engineering is not an option.
Okay. Well, there's a tool that actually will brute force the password. Let's for example, Apple, and this goes into a lot of legality issues. For example, there was a incident where they had a bombing, and they had the guy's iPhone, and they needed to get into it, and they went to Apple and said, "Hey, we need to get in." And they said, "No, we're not going to do that because we're not going to sell the privacy of our customers." And they stood their ground, and even though they were in contempt of court, they still stood their ground. And eventually they turned it around and said, "Okay, we're not going to do that." But they hired a third-party company, which, very interesting enough, it was an Israeli company, and they were able to get into the iPhone, and they were able to find some information that really had nothing to do with the bombing, but was critical for some other stuff. But there are tools that will allow you to either look for vulnerabilities in the code to allow you to get past whatever barrier there is. But for example, there's a way that if you have a buffer overflow, understand that code is held in RAM. Basically, RAM is a temporary storage of data, and the code is in RAM. It's temporary. It's just electrical signals that's held in memory. You can use that code as a buffer overflow. You can run enough information that it overflows the buffer that's holding it, and now that code is broken, and it allows you to gain access to a certain level where you can then escalate yourself to an admin privilege. It just you have to look at what operating system we're talking about and what vulnerability, because there are thousands of vulnerabilities. If you look at CVEs, critical vulnerability, there's just thousands and thousands of them, and it depends on what we're talking about. But
okay, do you understand why I drew up that analogy? based on the conversation that we've been listening.
You want me to
here.
hack the universe?
No. Actually, I think what they're talking about is hacking ourselves.
Well, to a certain degree, yeah, and that's
by
why I'm so
extension, and let's reverse that analogy. Let's say that you're stuck in the computer.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get out. You're on remote desktop, but you don't. But you're on remote desktop.
Yeah.
Well, he said that the brain is the filter. Okay, it's a filter for what? For the control signal?
Well, yeah.
So that means we're not actually in our bodies. We're
not
controlling ourselves. Is that
not
what's going on here?
And this is where it gets so out there. And I've got to pull up another video and show you this, but it's almost proven that nothing is real. Everything that we think and experience as reality is not actually real. It's a made up simulation. What's so bizarre, this goes along a lot of different religion beliefs. It kind of has a basis in a lot of different things. The Vedas from India, there's some stuff in there that kind of goes into the simulation of life and the game of life. When you get into some Buddhism stuff, it's like, yeah, this is really kind of interesting. Let me pull up this other guy. He really pulls it all together. He does the thing. The guy I was doing earlier, he was talking about what he was telling you was a heads-up display. He doesn't understand what a heads-up display or HUD is. He's not played enough games, okay? But he said this thing appears to him when he goes into the DMT experience, and it's like just above his field of view, and he calls it a framework. And he's talking about what the framework does and how he experiences this thing, and basically it's a heads-up display. And
he didn't
Danny
understand
Gower,
user interface.
he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. He's not. I don't guess he's not a programmer. He's a project manager of what? I don't get it. Let me think. It's just.
Hey, I don't mean to cut off our conversation because I have been enjoying it quite a bit, but it's getting late, so
I'm sorry, man.
I'm gonna have to wrap it up here very shortly.
Okay. Let me just pull this one back. There are so many of these that are coming out now that it's just so bizarre, and we're starting to getting a little bit of information that makes us think that maybe this is true. Now that's quantum theory. There's a lot of quantum theory stuff going on right now.
The lack of interest by the nations of the world in outer space exploration over my lifetime has been staggering to me, to the point where I've begun to wonder whether or not we've ever actually done it before.
Gone out there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I may have to pull this up later.
Yeah, that sounds like another rabbit hole to dive into. Woo Woo Wednesday. How about that for a moniker? Woo Woo Wednesday.
Pretty good idea.
We're getting wacky on Humble.
There's just so many of these things that are not explainable. They're beyond our science. We've not developed technology far enough to be able to study this. Okay, we don't understand.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, we've begun this conversation this evening talking about hidden technologies. So, for all we know, it does exist, and there's a select few that know about this stuff and withhold it for whatever reason. Maybe they're scared of what will happen. Maybe they just are, by blood oath, not allowed to speak it. And I don't know. But it could exist. And man, there's people that have dedicated their entire lives to this woo-woo stuff that we're talking about here. You know what's interesting? That guy, the bald guy.
Yeah.
He was just on Megyn Kelly talking about MAGA. Not that long ago. Kyle brought him up on his show. I don't know if that was today or yesterday. I think it might have been yesterday. What is MAGA? What is that guy's name, by the way? Because I don't recognize this podcast. Not Chase. Who's the other guy? The one?
Oh,
that's
dude, my brain just went totally dead. He's a
because you were zoomed in and I couldn't.
Sean Ryan. It's Sean Ryan.
Okay.
Sean Ryan show. Yeah. No, Sean. Yeah, Sean is like a major. You need to follow him, dude, because he is a major influencer in the sphere. I love Sean Ryan. He is. I have to give him props because he did his service, and he understands that not everything in government is right. We have a lot of corruption, and so he kind of follows that rabbit hole, kind of like Tucker does, and he pulls on a lot of people and gets a lot of really good interviews with things that you just go, wow, I couldn't imagine that actually is true. He had Tulsi on recently, and there's some interesting stuff. You need to see that particular interview with Tulsi Gabbard.
She dropped plates.
Well, kind of. Not as much as Joe Kent did, but yeah, she did a little bit. So it's a very interesting podcast. Very interesting.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here.
All right. I'm sorry I took you down this hole, man.
No, I think given the mood that I've been in today, I think this was the right way to go because I just was not in the right frame of mind for more politics, more news bullshit, and I'm not sure our audience is either.
How do you examine what you're seeing and understanding whether it's a psyop or whether it's reality?
Okay. Like I said, we're wrapping up here, so
all right, man. Sorry.
Bell, fork,
done.